Hiro Hamada sits on his bed watching a video of his deceased older brother, Tadashi. It's his first day of school at the university. He misses his brother very much. He goes down to his aunt's diner, where Tadashi's friends are waiting for him. Honey Lemon, Gogo, Fred, and Wasabi all miss him too. Now that their friend has passed away, they feel a responsibility to look after his younger brother, Hiro. All 5 of them have experienced many things in the past few days. They are only starting to form a bond together. To understand the context, it's important to know what happened before. Tadashi was a robotics prodigy. Unfortunately, he passed away due to a fire incident. He left his younger brother his legacy. It's a healthcare-providing robot named Baymax. Hiro and Baymax have done heroic deeds, along with Tadashi's friends. They have stopped a former professor from doing evil things. But because of this, Baymax was destroyed, leaving only his charging port and one armored glove formed into a fist. But life must go on. Hiro thinks his brother doesn't want him to sulk all his life. When he and the others arrive at the university, they all pass by Tadashi's former laboratory. Hiro enters, and he sees the armored glove left by Baymax. He does the hand greeting he usually does with the robot. That's when he notices the glove clutching something. It's Baymax's healthcare module. With renewed hope and an idea, Hiro goes to work. He carefully checks the program to see if it's still working. Then he plans on getting the right materials to form Baymax's body. However, the dean of the university interrupts him. Professor Granville is a serious woman always uptight with rules and regulations. She praises Tadashi for his genius and skills. He worked hard to earn this private lab. So if Hiro wants to use it, he must work hard too. And he can start by attending his classes. Coincidentally, his first class is thermodynamics, and his professor is none other than Granville. Despite being told off, Hiro persevered in his goal of recreating the robot's body. He goes to the laboratory at night to continue his work. So far, he has progressed to uploading Baymax's program onto the computer. Hiro has also procured some carbon fiber materials which he can use to build the skeleton. In his excitement to rebuild, he takes for granted a crucial part of the process. He does not run a diagnostics protocol on the robotic skeleton. Baymax, speaking from the computer speakers, reminds Hiro that Tadashi had made sure to test whatever he was building. But Hiro waves off this reminder. He is confident that he has built a perfect skeleton on the first try. This backfires, as the robot malfunctions. It goes out of control, and smashes through the window. It almost gets caught by Professor Granville. Thankfully, Hiro makes some excuses. Then he chases after the robot, who has run off towards the city. Meanwhile, Fred is in his Dino costume. He tries to convince Gogo and the others to continue being a superhero. After their success in defeating Professor Callahan, and probably saving the world, he has become inspired to do heroic deeds, although in a dramatic, fantastical way. Gogo reminds him that being a hero is only a one-time chance. A job about saving lives with superpowers only happens in books and movies. In real life, there's no need for it. But even as she speaks, evil lurks in the dark alleys of San Francisco. Unfortunately for Hiro, he gets captured by Yama, along with the skeletal robot. He is his former opponent when he was still joining underground robotic competitions. Hiro negotiates with Yama to free him and his invention. Instead, the gangster makes a deal with the boy. Yama's boss called him earlier to do a task. He must steal a crystal paperweight from the dean of the San Francisco Institute of Technology. When he finds out that Hiro is attending the university, Yama orders the boy to steal it for him. If the boy is successful, then he will release the robot. Hiro agrees. He creates a plan on how to infiltrate Professor Granville's office. Fred finds out about this, and even discovers that Baymax has come back. He volunteers to help Hiro. Despite some carelessness on Fred's end, Hiro steals the paperweight. He and Fred go back to Yama to complete the deal. But the gangster is a gangster, through and through. He confiscates the paperweight and doesn't release the robot. Then, he imprisons both Hiro and Fred. Back in the university, Honey Lemon and the others are worried about Hiro. Thinking that he may need some companions, they visit him in Tadashi's lab. However, they see the mess inside the room. They are also surprised to see Baymax returning as a desktop computer. The robot informs them of the situation, and points them to where they can rescue Hiro. This is all in good timing because, in Yama's hideout, the two are already trying to escape. Hiro and Fred are looking for exits when Yama's men find them. They bring him to the gangster, who orders them to get rid of these two twats. Fortunately, their friends appear right at that time. A brawl starts. Wasabi tears through the roof using his plasma blades. Gogo blocks off the men using her maglev discs. Honey Lemon stops the others from attacking by throwing her chemballs at them, which sprout a gooey and sticky substance when it explodes. Hiro uses the commotion to sneak into the next room and release the skeletal robot. But Yama is already waiting for him, expecting a double cross. Honey Lemon throws Yama a chem ball that temporarily freezes him. Hiro releases the robot. Then, with the help of Fred's butler Heathcliff, they escape through the roof and fly in a helicopter. Back in the laboratory, Hiro apologizes for keeping his activities a secret from his friends. They all forgive him, on the condition he must not repeat those mistakes. This time, the boy listens. He returns the paperweight to the dean's office. Then he continues working on Baymax's skeleton. This time, he runs multiple diagnostics tests to make sure it will not malfunction like before. Eventually, he fully rebuilds the marshmallow-like body of Baymax and revives him. Hiro is so happy to finally get the robot back. It's like having his brother again by his side. Due to their recent rescue mission, Fred becomes more eager to be committed to superhero life. He creates a name for them, Big Hero 6. He even commissions a light signal similar to Batman. Just as before, Go-Go and the others are still not sold to save people. Even Hiro is not supportive of this. For him, the return of Baymax is enough. Fred continues to do night patrols, but with a little sadness because his friends won't support him. Perhaps, in a way, he is right to pursue this noble endeavor of becoming a superhero. That is because more trouble is about to come. Yama isn't able to get the paperweight, but he has gained something more valuable. During the time Hiro was planning and stealing the object, Yama had asked his men to make copies of the robot. Now he has armies of them that are ready to cause havoc around the city. But first, he presents this project to Obake, his boss, and the one who wants the paperweight stolen. Yama thinks he has outsmarted his boss, but he is wrong. Using intimidation, Obake insists on getting the item. So Yama has no choice but to infiltrate the university himself. He takes a few robots with him and unleashes the rest into the city. Honey Lemon and the others respond right away to subdue the enemies, while Hiro will try and prevent Yama from stealing. Together with Baymax, he follows the gangster to the dean's office. Yama enters, along with two other robots. One is left to stand guard outside. As Hiro thinks about what to do next, his phone rings. His Aunt Cass calls while riding a train back home. She informs him about getting the best deal on stinky fish, which the other passengers don't appreciate. Hiro awkwardly says good, before cutting the call. This causes the guard robot to spot him and Baymax. It attacks them. Hiro disables it, but not before it tears through Baymax's vinyl body. Suddenly, the boy gets an idea. Since he is now a skeleton, Baymax can pretend to be one of the robots and retrieve the paperweight. So the robot joins the enemies. Luckily, he's the one who finds it. Everything is going well. But Yama trips. This triggers Baymax's healthcare provider mode. He offers Yama any assistance. Now that they are busted, Hiro has to help Baymax get out of there as soon as possible. A scuffle starts among them. Then, the object gets thrown and chips off a small portion of it. Instantly, green, laser-like lights come out of the hole. As if alive, the paperweight attaches itself to one of the robots. It charges it, then lifts Baymax and throws him out of the window. But it overloads, eventually destroying the robot. Yama retrieves the object and rushes out of the door. Hiro tries to save Baymax. Just in time, Honey Lemon and the others arrive. She creates a bubble bed to catch both Hiro and Baymax. The boy informs his friends that the paperweight is much more valuable than they think. The five of them, with Baymax, decide to become superheroes once again. Hiro retrieves the previous armor that he made during the fight with Callahan. He knows that he is being reckless again. But this time, his actions are justified. He remembers Tadashi's last words, somebody has to help. Hiro uses this as his guide to do what is right. Finally, the Big Hero 6 officially commences. Fred feels emotional to see this moment. But they need to act fast. Using Baymax's super scan, they locate Yama in the central train station. Then Hiro realizes something. The paperweight must contain some particles that are good for nano-induction. They immediately fly towards the station. Yama still doesn't know the danger he's carrying in his pockets. When he rides the escalator, the object burns through his jacket and jumps onto the steps. Immediately it speeds up the escalator. Then it hits a step and flies towards the railing. It senses the oncoming train, to which it immediately sticks itself on. The train runs faster, displacing everyone in it including Aunt Cass. The Big Hero 6 flies along with the train. Wasabi and Gogo detach the last part of the train while Honey Lemon and Fred do their best to stop it. Meanwhile, Hiro and Baymax deal with the first train to which the paperweight is attached. Hiro manages to remove the item from the train car, effectively stopping it on its tracks. But it starts to affect Baymax and his armor. Because of too much charge, it shoots them up toward the sky. With great difficulty, Hiro reverses the item's polarity. Then he throws it up higher, where it explodes. With Baymax offline due to high charge, they fall rapidly. The ground looks closer and closer. Hiro must do something. He opens one port in the robot's armor and connects the wires again. He is only able to revive the robot just in the nick of time. When they all get together, Honey Lemon and the others acknowledge that Fred is right in pushing for this superhero team. In the aftermath of the events, Hiro comes to see Professor Granville. He informs her that he will not follow his brother's path. He will make his own, but he'll make sure he'll be guided by his brother's memories. He may have forgotten to ask why the dean has that paperweight in the first place. As an important aspect of Hiro's education, Professor Granville introduces him to Carmi. Before Hiro attended the San Francisco Institute of Technology, Carmi was the youngest student and was considered a genius, until he came along. At first, it looks promising that a friendship will develop between the two, but as soon as Professor Granville leaves them alone, Carmi shows her true nature. She's grumpy and prefers to talk to her cultured bacteria instead of a human being. She's a genius in biology and there's no denying that she can be on par with adult biologists. However, her condescending attitude can be an explanation as to why she doesn't have any friends. This is what Gogo thinks when Hiro and Baymax met her later that night. It's their schedule to patrol. Then, Baymax detects a disturbance not far from them. When they check, they see a bizarre incident happening. A mother and daughter duo is doing a dance number in the middle of the street. They both wear colorful aerobics clothes. Their hair and makeup are similar to 80s fashion. They call themselves the High Voltage. Every dance move they do creates a shot of electricity, which strikes anything near. They bust the lights on the lamp posts and strike nearby ATMs. Overcharged with electricity, these machines explode, sending cash flying everywhere. Perhaps the weirdest part of it all is that the public watching them is clapping, as if being entertained. Gogo, Hiro, and Baymax attempt to stop them. Barb, the mother, orders her daughter, Juniper, to dance their way out of the situation. Her moves create waves of electricity that block Gogo's discs and make Baymax's armor short-circuit. Unfortunately, our young heroes can't do anything to stop these colorful criminals. They bag all the cash on the ground, and get away in their electric car. The next day, Hiro and Gogo tell their friends about what happened. Fred suggests they may be following specific comic book villains. Being the comic book nerd of the group, Fred tells them the story of Captain Fancy in issue 188, where he fought a similar mother-daughter duo. Gogo finds it ridiculous to have a fiction book become the basis of a real-life villain, but she'll change her mind later on. That night, Big Hero 6 faced the High Voltage again. This time, the criminals have upturned an armored truck containing mountains of cash. Honey Lemon observes that they use a floating shock generator. This must be the source of their power. When it sends shots of electricity, Barb and Juniper expertly direct them to anything they want to hit. So they send an electric orb toward Baymax. As expected, his armor short-circuits. Because of this, he accidentally fires one of his arm boosters. It hits a nearby lamp post and breaks it in two. It is about to fall on Carmi, who happens to be on the scene. She has developed an infatuation with the one wearing a purple helmet, who is actually Hiro. Hiro pushes Carmi out of the way, saving her from the falling lamppost. The girl is so excited to have this chance of getting a close-up photo of the hero she adores. After the second time they fail to apprehend High Voltage, the five friends sit in the cafeteria to think about what they can do. However, Hiro is concerned about getting recognized by Carmi. If she reports his secret identity to Granville, he will be in trouble. But the matter of the criminals comes first. So Fred and Gogo decide to finally read issue 188 in the hopes of finding clues to defeat their enemies. Fred admits that he doesn't have a copy of the issue. It turns out, it was banned right after it was published and only one copy remained. It was sold off in an auction, so he tried to buy it. But his rival, Richardson Mole, beat him to it by cutting off his house's electricity. Gogo and Fred go to Richardson's place. The kid allows them to see the issue, but only if they beat his high score in whack-a-mole. Gogo accepts the challenge. She easily whacks the Fred figurines in place of moles, which is both impressive and concerning. In the end, she beats the high score and Richardson allows Fred to read the copy. He finishes reading it just as Gogo receives a text from Wasabi, informing them that High Voltage is robbing a bank. Meanwhile, Hiro checks in with Carmi to see if the girl really recognizes him as the superhero in the purple suit. To his confusion, Carmi is still condescending towards him and seems to be more rude and grumpy than ever. That looks contradicting to the idea that she fancies him. But he doesn't have time to think about it, as he receives a text from Wasabi about High Voltage. Honey Lemon, Wasabi, Hiro, and Baymax all go to the bank to apprehend the criminals. Just like before, they get overpowered again by Barb and Juniper. The daughter even manages to crash Baymax's program, forcing the robot to reboot. Just in time, Gogo and Fred come in. Gogo expects Fred to know how to defeat the duo. But it turns out, there's nothing informative in the comic book issue about defeating the villains of Captain Fancy. All Fred knows is that the issue is a letdown. Perhaps Richardson did him a favor when he cut the power in his house at that time. Finally, Gogo gets inspiration. She asks Honey Lemon to insulate her discs and her hands. Then, she attacks Barb and Juniper with the insulated discs, which are effective against their electricity. And then she grabs their shock generator and insulates it as well, rendering it useless. Their power source is gone, and the high voltage decides to escape. But Honey Lemon catches Barb with one of her chemballs. Juniper tries to somersault her way out until she bumps into Baymax, who has finally rebooted. The criminals are apprehended at last. On the other hand, Hiro still has to deal with his concern about Carmi. Does she like him or not? It turns out, as Fred learns from issue 188, Carmi doesn't see Hiro as a superhero. She sees a different identity when he wears a purple helmet, so this means Hiro is safe. Confident that his secret is safe, Hiro does an untold favor for Carmi. At the end of the week, he reports to Granville that he has learned a lot from his fellow young genius, and expresses his wish to be her friend. On another day, the 5 friends with Baymax are gathered in a cafeteria during lunchtime. Honey Lemon asks a favor from them. She has had an incident in her dorm room, where she accidentally froze everything inside including her roommate. Out of all her friends, Gogo has a space in her home. So Honey Lemon persuades their pessimistic friend to let her stay in her apartment. Gogo reluctantly agrees. Not that she doesn't like Honey Lemon. Rather, she knows that the overly positive attitude of her friend is not fitting with her neighborhood. There are crooks everywhere. Gogo will not be surprised if she gets robbed. She warns her friend about this. But Honey Lemon waves this off. So everyone helps their chemistry genius friend during the move. Wasabi organized all of her things. Knowing him, everything is categorized, even the smallest details. But even this level of organization doesn't match the carefree attitude of Honey Lemon. She simply leaves her chem purse on top of one of the boxes. She believes that everyone has a positive side. Therefore, it's impossible to think that anyone would try to steal from her. This attitude is all good and well. But there are times when always looking at the positive side will never help. This is the lesson that she will learn in this episode. And the character that will inadvertently help her learn is a thief named Dibs. Dibs is a failure when it comes to the art of stealing. He has poor hand and eye coordination, that's why other crooks tend to look down on him. So when he sees the chem purse on top of the boxes, he doesn't hesitate to steal it. At last, his time has come to prove his worth as an excellent thief. He brings it to an abandoned warehouse where he attempts to open it. But there is no visible clutch or anything. He is about to give up when he hears people walking in. Of all people to come, it is Alistair Cray, accompanied by his assistant. It turns out, the warehouse is owned by him. This is where he usually stores his secret inventions and other things he steals from inventors. This time, this is where he keeps a neurotransmitter. He has managed to make a copy of Hiro's invention, which can control thousands of microbots. If successful, this will be worth $1 billion venture. When they leave the place, Dibs immediately gets out of hiding and steals the device. He wears it as he imagines himself being successful again in stealing. But the chem purse gets stuck in the mechanism of the table. Dibs forcefully pulls it, before it squirts a purple, gooey-like substance that completely covers him. Meanwhile, Honey Lemon and Gogo are both adjusting to their new setup. A full day has passed before Honey Lemon realizes her purse is missing. Gogo immediately thinks it has been stolen, but the positive girl thinks she may have misplaced it. As they discuss where to find it, news of a monster spreads across the city. Fred and Hiro decide to check it, while Wasabi and Baymax will go with the girls to find the purse. In Gogo's apartment, they confirm that the chem purse is missing. Gogo gives a snide comment about how she has warned her friend, and Honey Lemon doesn't take this lightly. They argue while Baymax tries to come in between to make peace. Then they hear a commotion outside. When they look, the reported monster is outside. Immediately the 4 of them go out to face it. But Dibs is too clumsy with the gooey, sticky substance. When Baymax scans him, he confirms there are traces of chemicals from the missing purse. Honey Lemon finally admits that her purse has been stolen due to her carelessness. Because of this, her whole attitude changes. She becomes sullen and negative. She still works on creating a substance that will unstick the sticky goo from the monster. But she has become so pessimistic it is hard to believe she is the bubbly person in the group. Everyone tries to pacify her, including Gogo. But this doesn't work. Honey Lemon realizes that her overly positive attitude has caused trouble for a lot of people. So she is determined to be sullen and pessimistic from now on. Then they find in the news that Globby, a nickname Fred gave Dibs, has abducted Cray, and brought him to the highest tower in the city. The Big Hero 6 comes to the rescue. At first, they try to force and intimidate Globby so he will release his hostage. But he doesn't budge. All he wants is for Cray to teach him how to use the device on his head. He's tired of being looked down on by other thieves. Thinking that it will help the situation, everyone persuades Honey Lemon to give some positive reinforcement. As Gogo says, the group doesn't need another glass half-empty girl, and it's her strength to give reassurance to other people. So Honey Lemon uses her talk no jutsu to raise Globby's self-esteem. This works because when Cray accidentally falls off the ledge, Globby stretches his legs to catch him. Cray is saved, Globby's self-esteem is repaired, and Honey Lemon learns a good lesson. But now that he thinks he's special, Globby refuses to return the neurotransmitter. He escapes, swinging from one building to another using his sticky appendages. But even a positive pep talk doesn't change the fact that he's clumsy.
I was a pretty well-known villain in my day.
It's another booby trap!
Oh no.
If you have been watching Big Hero 6, you know that one of the core members is Fred Fredrickson IV. His parents belong to the elite upper class of society, which means they are insanely rich and well-connected to other upper-class socialites. As a member of this elite family, Fred has to go through what he calls brotillion. It's similar to a coming-of-age ceremony that's typical to the upper class. It is where he is introduced to other people. Naturally, he calls his friends for help. Fred explains to them that there's one person he needs to impress the most. Her name is Beatrice Samantha Mole, also known as Binky. Since he was young, Fred has always done inappropriate and sometimes questionable things. All these happened in front of Binky. Now that his brotillion is coming up, he feels pressure to show her he has matured. But more than anything else, he doesn't want his mother to be embarrassed because of him. His main goal is to impress her by dancing the waltz. So Hiro comes to the rescue. He searches for different styles and dance steps. Then he downloads all the data into a chip, and puts it inside Baymax's module. It's quite entertaining to watch a huggable robot dance to hip-hop and disco genres. He also teaches Fred the correct steps for a waltz. It looks easy to learn the steps when one has a gentle and patient teacher like Baymax. But their troubles are far from over. Mrs. Fredrickson, Fred's mom, receives a call about an avalanche in one of their vacation mountains. Therefore her husband won't be able to come home for the event. In addition, their caterer just backed out due to unknown reasons. And they can't get anyone for replacement. Luckily, Aunt Cass is available to take the job. She'll have enough money to replace the dysfunctional espresso machine in her coffee shop. Eventually, the big day arrives. Hiro, Wasabi, Gogo, Honey Lemon, and even Baymax all help Aunt Cass as servers for the event. Meanwhile, Fred is finally introduced. Everyone applauds him, except Binky who looks grumpy. Due to nervousness, Fred asks Baymax to calm him down. Despite this, he feels the ground shake under his feet. But the ground is indeed shaking. Somebody crashes Fred's brotillion. A large, burrowing vehicle suddenly breaks through the floor and takes everyone aback. When the door opens, it reveals an old man with a monocle in one eye and robotic attachments. He introduces himself as Baron von Steamer. And he has come to take revenge on his sworn enemy, Boss Awesome. He plans to do it by kidnapping his son, Fred Fredrickson IV. Chaos ensues as he releases steam from his robotic attachments. Hiro and others try to protect Fred. But this is difficult to do when they don't have their suits and gear. In the end, Wasabi and Fred run to a door that won't open. Steamer celebrates that he's finally taking the son of his rival. And with that said, he grabs Wasabi and runs from the place. Everyone is confused as to why Wasabi was taken instead of Fred. Perhaps Steamer doesn't exactly know who Fred Fredrickson IV is, or his eyes can't distinguish who's who due to old age. Regardless, they all need to know where Wasabi has been brought. So Fred brings them all to his father's superhero lair. It turns out, Mr. Fredrickson used to be Boss Awesome back in the day. It was around the 70s when he used to fight Baron von Steamer. But now he's retired and currently dealing with the avalanche in their family mountain. But he shows the kids the map of the city where possible hideouts are marked. They identified 2 locations, but they are in opposite directions. They need to split. Hiro and Baymax go to the abandoned railway station. They encountered numerous booby traps set by Steamer. However, none are dangerous enough to scare them away. In the end, it's just an empty place. A gramophone is set to play to create the illusion that Steamer is watching. They immediately run to the other location. Meanwhile, Steamer insists he has abducted the right son. Wasabi clarifies that he's not Fred and that his father is an orthodontist. But the old man waves this off, saying he's only saying it so he'll be released. But he won't be tricked. Baron von Steamer has waited long enough to exact revenge on his rival. Then he lowers Wasabi's cage into a furnace. Just in time, Fred, Honey Lemon, and Go-Go arrive and release him. They all see Steamer gone up a hole and they think he's escaping. But he's only gone to get a huge mechanical spider. This makes Fred paralyzed with fear. So Go-Go and Honey Lemon do their best to fend off the enemy. Since the mechanical vehicle is run by a steam engine, Honey Lemon attempts to freeze one of its legs. But it's not effective. He comes after Wasabi again. This time, Hiro and Baymax come in to save him. Except for Fred and Wasabi, they all attack Steamer. But the old man easily puts them down. When Fred looks at all his friends struggling, he realizes he has to do something. He jumps in front of Baron von Steamer and finally introduces himself as Frederick Fredrickson IV. Confused, Steamer looks again at the poster and sees the resemblance between his rival and the son's lizard costume. He even has the nerve to chide Wasabi for pretending. At last, Steamer can finally exact his revenge. But he's underestimating Fred, and he'll find out soon how determined the young man is when standing up for his friends. He shoots fire at each of the spider's legs. Then, when it's out of balance, Fred kicks it hard. Defeated, the Baron chooses to escape. Eventually, the Brotillion is held at Aunt Cass's coffee shop. Fred invites his mother to a waltz. He apologizes to his mother for not having the perfect event, but Mrs. Fredrickson says it doesn't matter, that they shouldn't look at other people's approval to be happy. She also tells her son she's proud of him. All's well that ends well. The adventures of our 5 young heroes with Baymax continue as they deal with another dilemma to solve. Alistair Cray calls their help after recently becoming a victim of robbery and poisoning. It is nighttime when they come in to help the victim. According to Alistair, he was being served sushi by a female cook. Then he felt paralyzed after eating 2 servings. It turns out, the woman was a thief using a high-end knife. She used the knife to lace the sushi with toxins. Then she stole his gravitational disruptor. Alistair thinks he has outsmarted the woman because she stole only half of the device. The other half is kept safe in a secret place. But Fred figures out it is hidden in a safe box whose switch is inside a globe. This implies that the thief will come back to get it. As they decide what to do, Aunt Cass calls Hiro. She demands to know where he is now. She expects her nephew to be upstairs doing homework or sleeping. Hiro gives some lame excuses before cutting his aunt off. Aunt Cass is not okay with this. When she sees the microbot her nephew used to play with before, she gets an idea. She thinks Hiro is joining bot fighting again in Good Luck Alley. She decides to fetch Hiro from there and give him a scolding. But she knows the place is not safe, so she brings her collection of knives. Just in case. Aunt Cass arrives at Good Luck Alley. She proceeds to the building where the bot fighting used to happen. When a guard checks her bag, she is immediately admitted. He even calls her a fighter, which confuses her more. Is she supposed to participate in some morbid fighting? It turns out, she has been accepted as the new contender for an underground cooking contest. But it's not a simple competition. The event is called Food Fight, where 2 contestants will cook a dish with limited ingredients under a time limit. The winner shall confiscate the loser's set of knives. Cheating is very much encouraged, making it a no-holds-barred competition. And who else would be Aunt Cass's competitor than her idol, celebrity chef Bolton Gramercy? Which suspiciously sounds like Gordon Ramsay. Everyone underestimates her because of her appearance, but Aunt Cass is not a coward. When the competition starts, the 2 cooks get the ingredients. In the end, Aunt Cass defeats Gramercy and earns his set of knives. Meanwhile, Hiro and others examine the crime scene, Alistair's office. Everything looks in order. But on closer inspection, every object has been sliced cleanly and precisely. Wasabi concludes the suspect used graphene blades. They are thinner than paper but stronger than steel. Now that they know what weapon was used, they need to know who uses that weapon. Fred offers to use his father's database for known villains in San Francisco. But what he means is for them to use an old big machine that reads punch cards. Everyone except Fred knows the process will take a long time, so they take a nap. Eventually, he finds a match. The culprit they are looking for is Momakase. She is the best thief and sushi chef in the city. Speaking of Momakase, she meets with Yama, the client who hired her to steal the gravity disruptor. He gets disappointed when he realizes only half is stolen, so he orders her again to steal the rest of the device. Or else there will be no payment for her services. Momakase returns to Alistair's office, where she easily locates the other half. To her amusement, Hiro, Baymax, and Wasabi are already there waiting for her. At least these kids and a robot can challenge her with her knife-wielding skills. In the end, she gets the item and goes back to Good Luck Alley. The next day, Hiro is surprised to see the cafe is closed past its opening time. Aunt Cass is still asleep. He doesn't know that ever since she won in Food Fight, she has been defending her title every night. She gets recognition, but in return, she neglects her duties. Because of this, Hiro decides to follow his aunt that night. And that's when he finds out she has been participating in an underground cooking contest. To make this discovery worse, that night, his aunt is supposed to face Momocase. He calls his friend for backup. Momocase meets with Yama, but instead of giving him the device, she double-crosses him. She plans to sell it in the black market to the highest bidder. But for now, she needs to defend her title as the reigning sushi chef. She must defeat this newcomer named Cass. While the competition is happening below, Hiro and others are rummaging through the office to find the device. Go-Go takes down the guards placed there. All the fighting has caused noises and disturbances that Momocase notices. Not wanting to lose the device and the competition, she imprisons Aunt Cass in a rope cage. Then, she jumps into the office to fight the intruders. A scuffle breaks out between her and the big Hero 6. While fighting, the gravitational disruptor falls on the floor, causing it to switch open and activate its anti-gravity capabilities. Everyone starts to float, even the people below, which include Aunt Cass. This frees her from the rope cage. She submits her food just as the timer runs out. Momocase breaks out of the office window riding Baymax. That's when the judges declare Aunt Cass as the winner. Enraged, Momocase jumps onto her. Aunt Cass throws the floating rope cage toward her enemy. At the same time, Hiro catches the floating device. He disconnects it, which returns gravity to normal. Momocase gets caught in the rope cage, marking her second defeat. The thief gets apprehended. Aunt Cass is the champion of Food Fight. And the best part, she now has an impressive collection of cooking knives, including Gramercy's. Apparently, they're given to him by his Nana.